You're listening to the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network with your host, Marc Henry.
Can you believe it's week 5 of the Texas high school football season? Where's the time going? I just can't believe it's slow down. I mean, I said this last week. It seems like we're rolling through this thing like an 18-wheeler with no brakes. But it's up, and we're here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron, on the LSG Network, the authority for high school football in the state of Texas. We're going to break down week 4, talk about a couple of top performances, and get you ready for one of the biggest games in the H-Town in week 5. Iowa Colony travels to take on Randall, the defending 5A Division II state champions. We'll talk about that particular game, a couple of more big games around the Houston area, and definitely we got some guys that moved up in the rankings this week in H-Town, man, in the state, not just in Houston. We'll talk about that and more right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. We'll take a small break, and we'll be right back and talk about week 4 right here on the TCG.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
Let's backtrack, talk about week 4. We had some teams that had to make some big-time comebacks, a couple of close games. And again, some teams started district a little early, but definitely everybody's now knee-deep in district as district play is going on around the state and in Houston as well. But let's talk about Dickinson. The Gators are 4-0 for the first time since 2018. These guys are a legitimate contender in 24-6A. They had a big 59-7 win over Clear Creek. And we've been talking about this guy. If you've been listening to the show, Lorenzo Aguiar's been playing out of his mind. He's only a junior, 2027, 20 of 26 for 323 yards and 4 touchdowns. We're talking about over 16 yards of completion. This Dickinson team is definitely a team you need to keep an eye on. They have the key, or they have the recipe to be a deep playoff team or make a deep run. Aguiar is the guy under center. He's doing a phenomenal job of being accurate. He's athletic, and he's a guy that can get the ball into tight windows, and he's a big time playmaker, man. I think that this guy is playing some of his best football right now. But they got some bigger games coming up. They'll play Clear Springs, Clear Falls, and Deer Park in the final 3 weeks of the season. So that's gonna tell us where this team is. That's gonna tell us how they make it to the playoffs, because those teams that we just talked about, those 3, Clear Springs, Clear Falls, and Deer Park, will be playoff teams as well coming out of 24-6A. But I like what Dickinson's doing. I like what Aguiar's doing, and he's one of those guys right now in this particular district that's probably right now, he's going to be the district MVP, because these guys are off to a 4-0 start. They're ranked number 9 in the state of Texas right now, not just in the Houston area. They're ranked number 9 in the state of Texas. So, shout out to the Gators for coming out, on fire the first 4 weeks, and they go into this heavy stretch of the district late in the year, and they're a favorite to win it right now. Now, the Katy Tigers, they've kind of got off to a rough start. They've played some top competition. They started out the season 0-2, but they've started the district play, or the district season, 2-0. They kicked off things with a 57-0 win over Morton Ranch, and they also beat Cinco Ranch last week, 56-28. They're rolling. Now, they do have one of the top rushers in the area in Tremaine Hill. He had a career high for a 3rd consecutive week. Listen to this, 316 yards and 4 tutties against Cinco Ranch. Look, he's already got 2,000-yard seasons in his career, and he's on his way to rushing for a 3rd. He rushed for 197 and 223 in the previous 2 games. And, the Big Red Machine is the Big Red Machine. Can they be dethroned in that district? They got a big one October the 16th against Jordan, which is probably the closest competition they have. Of course, you got Tompkins, you still have Pato, but I just think that Katie's one of those teams. They've been on this thing for a while. They know how to get back into gear, and this is what they do. But Tremaine Hill's a guy over there that you need to know about if you don't already know about this guy. He's a top rusher, definitely in the Houston area. He's got colleges looking at him as well. So, he's really setting the pace for Katy. And right now they're 2-0 in district. And you got to look at the competition that they played at Tascasita early in the year. These guys know that they have something special going on when it comes to being district champions. That's how you get to the playoffs. So it matters what you do in district, not necessarily what you do in pre-district, or, some people call it the preseason, if you will. But I think that these guys have a chance to be 1968 champions when it's all said and done. Now let's go to Third Ward with this next one, man. We talked about Jack Yates early in the year, and they're on a winning streak. They're 4-0 for the first time since 2017. That's got Third Ward on fire. I'm telling you, these guys are headed for a district title in 11-4A. Their only two opponents that have winning records left on their schedule are Washington and North Forest. They've been outscoring opponents 168-22, and only two teams had a winning record on their schedule. They're playing phenomenal right now, and Chris Brown's the guy that's been doing it. He was 6 of 8. For 57 yards and a touchdown and 110 on the ground and 2 tutties last week. And they rolled in the Fall Classic against Wheatley. Now, if you're an H-Town person or, a person from Houston, back in the day, this Yates-Wheatley game was, played around Thanksgiving. And it was a big thing. It was packed out. It was, it was a sellout, and they had to kind of move it around the Houston area, back in the Gap. But now, Yates is controlling this thing, and they beat Wheatley 49-7 in week 4, and right now they're 4-0. They got a strong chance of representing 11-4A in that particular district that features Washington. Now, Worthing has won that district the last 2 years and made it to the playoffs, and Yates made it to the playoffs the last 2 years, finishing second. I actually was at the game, I want to say last year and I was at the game the last 2 years. They played for the district title. Yates and Worthing did, and Worthing won. But I think the Lions have something special going on here, and it starts with Chris Brown. He's one of the best all-around athletes in the Houston area, and college coaches need to get on this guy. And I think he does have a couple of colleges that are looking at him right now, but he's the reason that they're rolling, man. And shout out to the Yates Lions, man. Here on Third Coast, we got to show some love to HISD all the time. I'm an HISD product myself, so we're never going to have a show where we don't talk about a team from HISD. Shout out to the Washington Eagles for a big win over Fur as well. We talked about them in that district. They could be rolling, man. If Washington continues, it could be a Washington Yates matchup for the district title. So we have to keep an eye on those Eagles over there on the north side of town. So definitely two teams, Washington and Yates, that could be on a collision course. You got to think about North Forest as well in that particular district. That could be challenging Yates. But right now the Lions are on top. Now a surprise team up north in the Woodlands. College Park is making some noise. They started 4-0 for the first time since 2007. They got a big one last week and a big win over Oak Ridge, 61-14. And under center QB1 Camden Hughes is playing lights out. He was 21 for 29 for 289 yards and 3 tutties. Through 4 games, he's well over 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns, 0 picks. He's also rushed for 4 touchdowns. We talked about him early in the season as a guy to keep an eye on. He's been playing phenomenal, and he's one of the reasons that College Park's been outscoring people 227-41. This guy's phenomenal. And I think that College Park has a chance to be a playoff team. Now, they have a couple of big games coming up. They play Willis on October 3rd, and then they get the Woodlands on October 17th. They hadn't won a district title since 2020, but these two particular games coming up in a few weeks could determine if they come out district champions. So I think that College Park's a team to watch. They definitely have the makeup of a playoff team, and I definitely think they're a team to keep watching. Right now they're 4-0, they're 2-0 in district, and they've been balling out of control. Now let's talk about a squad that a lot of people talk about, and we're going to show them some love. On the south side of things, Sam Rayburn has been playing phenomenal this year. They got a big win to stop a 15-game losing streak in their district in 22-6A action. They got a big win. Shout out to Sam Rayburn, man. Coach Sergio Gonzalez is in his fourth season over there. Since it's been a long time since they've been to the playoffs, since 1997. These guys may have something cooking over there. Now, they have a bye this week, and then they'll take on Alvin the following week. But a couple of guys that played well for those guys, Josiah Vila had an interception. Amos Juarez and Raymond Sabala both had fumble recoveries. The offense had over 400 yards of total offense, and the defense just gave up 147 last week against South Houston. So, hey, shout out to those guys. And we always want to show love to some guys. You know, we're going to talk about the North Shores, the Cadies, the Tascasitas, the Shadow Creeks, and some of the better teams in the Houston area. But it's always, we got to show some love to some of these guys that don't get the limelight as much as they should. But, man, shout out to Sam Rayburn, man. I kind of got a message about that, and I thought I would throw that in there before we start getting out to some players that stood out this week in week 4, last week of the football season right here on the Third Coast Gridiron. I definitely like to spotlight guys and teams that we don't get to talk about enough because, hey, we know that North Shore is going to be there at the end of the day. We know Atascocita and some of these other teams that we talk about on a weekly basis because they're just great teams. But shout out to Sam Rayburn, man. It's hard to stop a district losing streak. And then for a program that hasn't been to the playoffs since 1997, that's saying something. So definitely got to shout out those guys for getting it. Right now they're 3-1 on the season and 1-1 in district. Good luck, guys, to continue that trend going on, man. I'm gonna have to reach out to Coach Gonzalez and get him on the show and get his thoughts on the season so far in the next couple of weeks. We're gonna make that happen right here on the TCG. The Third Coast Gridiron, we're gonna take a small break. We're gonna talk about a couple performances, and then we're gonna go to week 5. We got a big one coming out, man, right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron.
Hey, do you need topsoil, fill dirt, sand, mulch, gravel, limestone, you name it? Do you need that delivered and or spread? Texas Tree Cycle in Victoria has you covered for residential and commercial projects, big or small. These guys do it all. They do some amazing work. You can call them at 361-237-8006 for a free estimate. That's Texas Tree Cycle, bringing quality materials to your yard.
Before we dive into week 5, let's talk about a few guys that stood out last week. Iowa County junior quarterback Carson White was efficient last week in a 57-0 win over Baytown Lee. 6 for 6, 133 yards and 5 touchdowns, averaging over 22 yards per completion. 2 of those touchdowns went to Jaden Warren, who's committed to the University of Houston. Iowa Colony's undefeated. They're ranked in the state right now. We're going to talk about them against Randall here in just a little bit. Aaron Tenner had a big game, 108 yards and 4 touchdowns, rushing and receiving total. Iowa Colony is a legit challenge to Randall. We're going to break that game down here just a little bit. Shout out to Landon Williams-Callis, who did it again. Of course, week 3, 326 yards, 6 total touchdowns, and a big win over Travis. This week he follows that up, or in week 4 he followed it up, 269, 4 tutties, and a 51-6 win over Fort Bend Marshall. And he also had a 27-yard catch. I mean, there's nothing this guy can't do. It's the reason he's one of the best and most highly recruited players, forget running backs, in the country. He's got every offer you can think of. And that's definitely a game that we're going to talk about and break down here in just a little bit between Iowa Colony and Randall, and a game we're going to pull up at this week. It's Thursday night, and Randall's hosting Iowa Colony. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Trent McCoy, Fort Bend Austin, man, he got busy. Had a monster game. He's a junior. Only a junior, so he's going to come back next year and wreak havoc on defenses again. As a junior right now, he's balling. 264 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a big win for Fort Bend Austin, man. I think that this guy's a name that you need to know about as well in the Houston area. Grayson Ochoa, junior running back over at Strake Jesuit. Of course, John Herbert is the guy over there at Strake Jesuit. But listen, this guy Ochoa came in and did his thing. He had 12 carries, averaging over 16 yards a carry. But I'm telling you, he had over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. This is a guy, of course, we know about Herbert. We know what he does. Listen, he didn't have a bad night either. 197 yards and 3 touchdowns. Straight Jesuit. Maybe they got the best duo in H-Town. But Ochoa got his swerve on and got busy, man. Shout out to him, Straight Jesuit. They're a team to watch. in the H. Jimmy Alcaron, I'm telling you, Cypress Lakes is one of those quarterbacks that you need to know about. He was 23 of 37 for 248 yards and 5 touchdowns in a big 57-0 win over Cypress Park in week 4. Listen, through 4 games, he's got 11 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. That's a guy you need to know about. There's a reason Cypress Lakes is 2-2 on the season, and they start the district out with a big win as well. Davis Kinney over at Travis, 2 interceptions, and they got a big victory. They bounced back from the loss the previous week in a 46-40 win over Hightower in 21-6A. He's committed to Northwestern. He's got 7 interceptions in 4 games, and he had a pick 6 in the first couple of weeks of the season. He's committed to Northwestern for a reason. He's got great eyes. He's got great instincts. He tracks the ball well, and he's a ball hawk. He understands how to get in front of the ball when he's supposed to be. And that's a reason. We talked about Travis about 2 weeks ago going into this season that they were a team to watch over there in the Fort Bend area. And we think that these guys have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs for the first time in a while. You know, they've kind of fallen on hard times, but the Tigers are 3-1 right now on the season. And I definitely think they're going to be a playoff team. And Kenny's one of those guys that's going to be at the forefront of seeing or at the forefront of determining if the Tigers make that playoff run or get into the playoffs. But listen, we're going to talk about week 5. I'm so excited about this game. I've been talking about this game all week. To anybody that listens, Randall, Iowa Comet. We'll break it down week 5 and a couple of more games around the H right here as we close out the TCG. Small break real quick, guys, and we're going to be right back and talk about week 5. H Challenge Podcast, the Third Coast Gridiron.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. That's LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
Week 5 is here, and we're going to talk about a couple of games that we have our eye on here on the Third Coast Gridiron before we get out of here. Fort Bend Ridgepoint. Ridgepoint takes on Travis. We talked about Travis just a few minutes ago. Ridgepoint, we've been talking about this team as a sleeper to come out of Houston and make a playoff run. They had a big win in week 1 over Clear Springs, Fulshire, and they beat Bridgeland, which is the game that we got eyes on. They take care of business last week against Elkins, and they got a good Travis team here. I think that Ridgepoint, listen, they got the ground game to control it. Darling's one of the top receivers in the area. He's been playing at a high level. You got Preston Hall on the defensive side, Hugh Smith, Jordan Burnett, Balin George has been playing well. This is a team that has a recipe or the makeup of a deep running playoff team, meaning they can make a deep run. I like Ridgepoint. I like what they're doing. But we talked about Travis just a few minutes ago as a team that could possibly challenge in its district. Now, 21-6A is loaded. Right now, everybody at the top is 1-0. That includes Travis, Ridgepoint, Bush, and Austin. Now, Ridgepoint has the better record out of all the teams. They're undefeated. This is going to be a tough test for those guys. But I like Ridgepoint in this game, but don't sleep on Travis. I mean, they really have an opportunity here if they can get this game to really solidify themselves as the second place team in that district. Dickinson, we talked about the Gators. Lorenzo Aguiar has been one of the top quarterbacks that's been playing well these first 4 weeks. They got a big one against Clearbrook. I like Dickinson in this game. They've been playing well, and they've been proving why they have a chance to be ranked in the state. They're ranked number 6 in the state. Summer Creek is ranked number 3 in the state. Ridgepoint's 4. And then the next game we'll talk about is Pearland and Manville. Of course, the Oilers are ranked number 7 in the state. Now, these rankings according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football. But Pearland's 4-0. They had a big win in week 1 over Fulshire. They beat Memorial 37-26. Blanked Rayburn 64-0, and they only allowed 3 points in a 61-3 victory over Alvin last week. Now, the 22-6A standings right now has Shadow Creek, Pearland, and Dawson at the top. Each one of those teams are undefeated. Manville's 1-1, and they're 500 on the year, 2-2. This is always a big game because these schools are close in proximity, and these kids know each other. So I expect a good game here. I expect a really good game. I think that Pearland's one of those teams that you definitely want to keep an eye on when it comes to making those playoff runs like we've been talking about. This is a team that's well positioned to do that, but they got to take care of business this week in order to make that happen. Klein Collins takes on the Klein Bearcats. Collins is 4-0. They rank number 18 in the state. Again, this is according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football. They take on a very good Klein team. This is a very good matchup. The jockeying for position in that Klein district that features a couple of Tomball schools as well. But Collins is playing well. They're 2-0. Magnolia's 2-0. And Klein's 2-0 in this district. All of these teams are undefeated as well. This is a matchup of 2 undefeated teams, probably one of the better matchups that you're going to see in the Houston area this week. Definitely on the north side of town. You definitely got to take a look at this one. I mean, both teams come in undefeated. We'll see how this comes out and how this shakes out. I really like what the Bearcats of Klein are doing this year. Of course, they have a pretty good team, and they got an SMU commit in the backfield in Edward Kelly Jr., who's been playing at a high level so far this year. Carter Luttrell, the quarterback. Torrey Paul is a playmaker committed to Lamar as well. That'll see some action and definitely get some touches. Chase Battles as well. Trenton Marshall on the defensive side. And, of course, you got Nicholas Robertson, 6'3", 335 on the offensive line. This is a very good team. I expect this to be a challenging game for both teams. But, I mean, you got to look at Klein. I mean, if you go on paper, this could probably be an upset if Klein takes care of business because they haven't had a team that makes the playoffs in a while. But I like what Collins is doing, too. It's one of those better games. Both teams are undefeated. And, I think that this is a team that can make a definite playoff run in both teams, but we're going to see. That's why they play the game. Shadow Creek takes on Pearland Dawson. Now, Dawson, we talked about these teams up at the top of this particular district in 22-6A. Dawson's 2-0. Shadow Creek's 2-0. Pearland's 2-0. And then you have Manville. After that, it's going to be a jockeying for position underneath, the Manville Mavericks, who are sitting in 4th place as we speak. But I think these are the 4 playoff teams in this particular district so far. The other teams don't have winning records besides Rayburn. They may could sneak in if they can get past Manville. But right now, this looks like the cream of the crop in 22-6A right now. And I like what the Shadow Creek Sharks are doing. They've been a playoff team in the past, but Dawson's been right on their heels. And I think this is going to be a very, very close game. Again, this is right in the same proximity. These players, these coaches, they know each other. They work out together. They play 7-on-7. They play Little League against each other. It's big brother against little brother, big cousin against little cousin. So they're going to know each other. It's going to be a raucous crowd as well. But let's talk about Angleton. They're ranked number 5 in 5A D1. They take on New Caney. Angleton's a very, very good team. The Wildcats had a deep playoff run last year. So far this year, they've beat Clear Lake, Brazerswood, and Foster. They're outscoring teams. 59-14 last week or the week before they take care of Foster. This is a team that has the makeup of a playoff team now. This is 11-5A D1. You got Crosby, Kempner, Friendswood. This is the opener for these guys, so you definitely have to see what they want to do. Now, New Caney, Porter, and LaPorte. LaPorte is a team that you need to know about in 11-5A. The Bulldogs are a legitimate contender in this district along with Angleton. Both of these teams were playoff teams last year. They had a epic thriller in the I think it was the 4th round of the playoffs last year, and Angleton ended up winning. So I expect these two teams to butt heads again in the playoffs, but they're going to meet in the district, probably in the district championship for this particular district in a couple of weeks. So I like what the Wildcats are doing. They're ranked in the state of Texas, And this is a very, very good team. So watch out for LaPorte in that district, and also watch out for Angleton. That'll be a big game in a couple of weeks that the TCG will have to have its eyes on. But before we get out of here, the big game of the week in my eyes is Randall welcoming in Iowa Colony. Now, last year, Randall beat Iowa Colony twice. 2 close games, one for the district title, and then in the playoffs, as Randall made their way to a 16-0 state title clinching season. Randall's been dominant. The closest game they had was against Travis, which was 56-29, if you want to call that close. Everything else, they beat Foster 55-0, Elsik 64-6, and last week they beat Fort Bend Marshall 51-6. Right now, Randall's right at the top, along with Iowa Colony in this particular district. Santa Fe's undefeated. And listen, don't sleep on Texas City. Texas City is a team that could challenge for a playoff spot in this particular district. Marshall's already behind the 8 ball. They lost in a head-to-head matchup to Randall. But Iowa Colony knows that they can play with these guys. We just got through, in the previous segment, we just talked about Carson White. We talked about Jaden Warren. These guys are really, really looking to go into Randall and pull off the dub. They feel like they left some meat on the bone last year, and they've been looking forward to it. I'm sure they have this game circled. They have a star by it, and they want to go on the road and win this game. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a hostile environment. They're taking on one of the best backs in the country in Landon Williams-Callis. If they can somehow muster up a defensive effort to get it done, they have a shot. Carson White's playing at a high level. He's only a junior. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the state of Texas in the class of 2027. He can get this done. Warren's a U of H commit. That's a 4-star recruit. They have the recipe to get it done. But can they get it done? They're going to have a tough time, with every defense has a tough time with Callis. There's no defense in the state that's not going to have a tough time with him. He's been playing at a high level. He seems to be running with urgency and just a whole nother gear. This is the game of the week on a TCG. We'll definitely be in the building on Thursday to watch this game live. Definitely the game of the week, and I can't wait to come back and recap this next week. Maybe we'll have a couple of interviews, and we'll have a chance to see these guys live. It's going to be high-stakes football right here in H-Town. The Randall Lions and the Iowa Colony Pioneers, definitely a game that we definitely are going to pull up in. Watch this game live. So definitely tune in. Check out the Third Coast Gridiron. We appreciate everybody that's been joining us. We've been on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also, check out the Lone Star Gridiron Network for each episode each week, man. Tap in with us on Twitter at Third Gridiron, and you can follow me on Twitter at MarkHen44 on the Mark Sports, man. Tap in, man. Appreciate everybody that's been tapping in with the show. This is our 6th season on the Lone Star Gridiron Network. The Third Coast Gridiron is in the building. We will come back and recap Week 5 next week. Man, we'll holla.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. That's LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.